Welcome back to the Healthy Diabetic Podcast. As always, before we get started, please remember that nothing that you hear on this podcast should be considered medical advice or otherwise. Please always consult your medical team before making any changes to your diabetes management. Okay, before we get to today's guest, I want to leave you with two important updates. The first one, it's the same update I tell you guys every single time. Make sure that you follow, like, share the show. Also, make sure that you do a written review. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcast, I believe Apple Podcast is the only podcast platform that you can actually do a written review on. Please make sure that you follow, like the show, leave a 5-star review. It really helps the show grow. Thank you to all of you who keep coming back every single week. It just touches me so deeply that you guys continue to listen to these conversations. I started this podcast in 2020 because these conversations I felt really needed to be out there and I wanted to talk about them. So thank you, continuously thank you from the bottom of my heart for continuing to come and listen to these conversations. The second thing I want to leave you guys with is please make sure that you go onto my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure you follow me. Click on the More Than A1C link. That link is also in the show notes, as it is on every single episode that I do. It is for my signature coaching program, More Than A1C. It's named that, More Than A1C, because when I started this journey with diabetes as a diabetic myself, there wasn't enough support. There wasn't enough guidance. I didn't have what I needed. And that program is going to help you build and craft your own management style. So please make sure and check that link out. It's also in the show notes. So let's get into today's guest. Today's guest was with Mila Hennigan and Cindy Hennigan. I had the amazing pleasure of sitting down with Cindy and her husband, Scott, a pretty decent long time ago. The link to that episode will also be in the show notes. So make sure you guys go also and check out that interview, because it was another really fabulous interview. But I got to sit down with Mila today and her mom, Cindy. I got Mila on because the last time we didn't get to talk to her. But this individual, this young diabetic, she is only 10 years old. She has this shit figured out, guys. I'm telling you that right now. She's got this shit figured out. When I first met Mila, I was so impressed with where she was mentally with this condition. When I first met her, she was only I think 3 or 4 months into her diagnosis. And when I got to sit down with her dad, and her mom, the unbelievable place that she was in at that time frame, that so close to her diagnosis, was insane to me. I don't want to give too much away because I want you to hear it from her mouth, her emotions, what she was feeling, the things that she went through. All of that is within this episode. We got to hear a lot more from Cindy, her mom, than we did from in the last episode. So I'm really, really excited for you guys to listen to this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching on YouTube. This episode will also be on YouTube. Thank you so much, everyone, for continuing to listen. Let's get with Cindy and Mila Hennigan. All right, so we got Mila back, or really we got Cindy back. We got Mila. Mila wasn't with us last time. Mila, I'm so pumped about this because the first time I met you, it was this really crazy thing because I've known your mom for years. I've known your dad for years. And I came to the house, I met you, and you were just this crazy, confident new diabetic. And I've never, ever been in that situation before. And I've met so many young diabetics. I've met so many diabetics in their 20s, their 30s, any age you want to think about. And where you were at that point when I first met you was incredible to me. And I'm so glad that we got you on the show now that we had a chance to talk to your mom and your dad last time. I'm so excited to talk to you about this because now I get to hear, and the whole world gets to hear, your perspective of your diabetes, how it went when you first started, what the emotions were, and on top of that, how you're doing now. Because, spoiler alert, you're doing really, really well right now. So let's start with that. I wanna hear, like, I heard the crazy story, the incredible story from your mom and dad about how you were diagnosed. I'd love to hear it from your own words and from your voice.
Okay, so I remember it was a Wednesday, and it was a snow day, and I had just invited my friend over to come play in the snow, and my mom was noticing that I was just like laying in the snow, not like participating in what everybody else was doing, and so when me and my friend went inside, maybe about like 15 minutes later, my mom came up and was like, sorry, you're going to have to leave. And she brought me to my pediatrician.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go to the bathroom. And so they had me pee in a cup. And and then they came back and they said that there's a lot of sugar. And that I might have diabetes. So they contacted Nationwide's ER, and we drove there. And then they did a few labs and stuff. And then they said that I most likely have diabetes. And so I was there for a few days, learning like how to like change my Dexcom, put it on, and like manage it, do shots. And then when I left, I remember going back to school, and everybody was asking like where I was.
Yeah.
And so me and my mom told them like why I was gone for a few days. And
Did you guys come up with like how you were going to like talk to your friends about it, or like things that you were going to talk about, like, or was it just like, hey, yeah, you can just tell them whatever you want to tell them?
So like we just told them like everything, well, not everything, but most of the stuff that we had heard from when we were at the hospital. And I remember after lunch, because we do lunch and then recess. At recess, like everybody was swarming around me, like asking tons and tons of questions.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, she was diagnosed, or I should say, we checked in the hospital on Wednesday, and we were released on Friday night, and she went back to school Monday morning.
Yeah.
And so I remember just being very sleep deprived and not knowing how I was going to explain this to a third grade classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my best, but looking back now, it was just kind of a blur.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be general and tell third graders, and they had a couple questions. But yeah, seems like so long ago.
Also, something I want to add on to that is also, like, not even 24 hours after I got to the hospital, I played a basketball game, and my friend who's in my class, she was like, where were you? And so I told her, so she was one of the first to know.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is my grandma was also, like, a day after, I think, or like 2 days after I went to the hospital. She came, I forget for what reason, like, for like probably like a fun visit.
Yeah.
And I remember that my grandpa, he brought me an elephant, a pink elephant stuffed animal, because we still do. We always make jokes about like elephants. I think I brought up one time about elephants, like red elephants or whatever, and then we searched it up, and we all started making jokes about elephants, so he brought me that.
That's awesome. What was it like? You got back to school on Monday. You're telling some of your really good friends about what happened. What was that like to tell your friends this crazy news that at this point you probably still didn't really know what this really means?
Yeah, so I told them pretty much everything that I knew about like diabetes and all that stuff, and they like had tons and tons of questions. So I tried to answer them the best that I could, and I remember most of them and still to this day, they still like keep asking questions, like or like how you doing, and they watch me like get all this stuff like my pump, and they were excited about that.
Yeah, because you left the hospital with a CGM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very unheard of, which I think is crazy. I think it might be becoming more something that more kids are allowed to leave with, but it's been unheard of for a long, long time. And the fact that you guys were only in the hospital for 48 hours, that was very surprising to me too, because I know a lot of people that were in, out even shorter time span than that, less than 24 hours, you're stable and you're out. But then I've also heard stories about, kids staying in for a week to get all the information.
I think it was she had to have no sign of ketones, if I remember correctly, for us to get discharged. So she was on, fluids, just trying to flush those out.
Yeah.
While we were there.
I had this thing connected to my hand, and it was connected to this giant thing with water or something, and I forget what it was. And whenever I wanted to walk over to the couch or something in the room, they'd all have to be like, wait. You have to bring that with you.
Yeah. That's funny. What when you were first diagnosed and you're going through this process, what was the first thing like you feel like you really learned and really stuck with you on how to be like successful and be as successful as you are right now, which we're going to get to in a second?
Trying to remember.
Yeah.
I think it's the ketones, maybe.
Okay.
Like when I'm high or something.
Yeah.
Like when I get like, if I'm like 300 for a long time, it's usually my mom who asked, like, do you want to check for ketones? We should probably do that. And so that's pretty much what stuck with me, because I hate doing it too.
Yeah, that was getting my next thing, that I know you hate doing that. Yeah, that's never fun. Checking for ketones is never fun, but it's easier now with you can do a finger stick now to check for it instead of having to. Because when I was diagnosed, it was you're peeing and that's it. Like there is no other way. Now at least you can do a finger prick, which is so much easier, for sure. Cindy, what for the listeners that haven't maybe listened to our episode, can you go through for us the emotions at the beginning, the emotions a couple months later, to the emotions now?
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. The beginning is shock, and I don't know, I felt like I was going on pure adrenaline, but just trying to reassure my daughter it's going to be okay. Wow. Trying to tell myself, it's going to be okay, and learn. Steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have any knowledge of type 1 diabetes. So I would say personally, for the first few weeks, again, you're just going off of adrenaline and figuring it out, trying your best. And it gets easier. And then we got the pump, and they tell you it's like starting over again. I would say I didn't feel that way.
I was going to say, like, did you feel that way? Yeah.
I did not feel that way. It was just learning new technology.
New technology, new different management style, because it really is a totally different management style on how the things that you can actually do compared to MDI.
Yeah. And I pushed for her to get her pump as soon as possible, because she was going to her first sleepaway camp for diabetics, Camp Family. And I thought it would be a great opportunity for her to go to this camp, having her insulin pump, being around other diabetics, learning the tips and tricks and moving in and putting a new one on and all that. I think for me personally, the 1 year mark, her diaversary, that is tough for me. It was hard because I felt like even though Mila does great, maybe it was the reality setting in that we're doing so well, but okay, there's no end. So this is, we're 1 year in, we're doing great, but this is life. So I think for a minute there were a couple weeks where I struggled with that internally, emotionally. But today I feel like I'm in a good place. I always worry about her, how she's feeling. But I can say as a parent, it's a process too. And, I've read and heard a lot of stories about how important it is to actually grieve that previous life.
Yeah.
Because it is like the death of the life that you knew before.
Yeah.
And I don't think I did that at first. It was just go, go, go. Let's learn. Let's do this. We're not going to sit and feel sorry for ourselves or say, why me? It was more like, okay, let's tackle this. So, that got us through to a really good point. And then I think, I've had some moments where I think about it, but overall now, it's our way of life. Mm-hmm. And it's, dare I say, it's good.
So I think the really cool part, Cindy, about the story, and this is the next part I want to go into, and then I want to come back to some of your some of your emotions, Mila, is compared to like where you guys were even just 6 months ago, compared to where you are now. We got some really good news the other day coming back from the endo's office. What was the last A1C, Mila? And then what was this previous or this closest A1C?
So my A1C before this last visit was 6. It wasn't a far jump because now about like 2 weeks ago I went back for, is it monthly?
Quarterly, every 3 months.
Okay, so like every 3 months. And it was 5.9, so it wasn't like a big jump, but it was an improvement.
Still very big, significant number when you think about the actual number of 5.9.
Yeah. And I remember also when I got diagnosed, I remember my A1C was 14, 15, and then I remember my blood sugar was super duper high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her A1C just read greater than 14 is how they presented it to us.
At diagnosis.
At diagnosis in the hospital. And then blood sugars were just reading high on the glucometer, so over 600.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
It's I think one of the coolest things that I have ever seen or that I keep seeing with individuals who are in a good mindset with diabetes, because your family is 100% in that realm of just being in a position or in a place where diabetes isn't just part of your life, but it's like, it's something that maybe you're not enjoying having, but you're just living it, and it's working for you. Not a lot of people can say that. There's so many young kids that are just struggling because they haven't figured it out. And from the time that I came to the house the first time to even to now, like, it almost seems like you guys just did this and everything was working. Even though that's not the reality of the situation. But it when I hear the stories, I've heard this story 3 times now. And every time I hear the story, it's just like, man, everything just, the stars were just aligned and everything just kind of fell into place. And the reason I bring that up is because I don't want the listeners that are listening to this, the people that are watching this, I don't want these people, everyone to be, think that they're doing a bad job because you guys are doing such a good job, and you guys did such a good job so fast. You guys put the tools in place that you guys needed to do and to work and make it work, and it worked. You know, Cindy tirelessly trying to learn about the condition, and Mila just like rolling with it. And this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And it just works. I think, and I also think about the time that you almost got 100% in range, right? You almost did it. That was just such a cool like challenge that you had with yourself. And for me to like watch from the back, from, you know, back here, because I don't know many other young diabetics that would have been like, yeah, I'm just going to go after. I'm just going to get 100% in range. And you were so close. 99%.
And we celebrated by.
We celebrated by getting my second ear piercing, which I was super excited for.
Yeah.
But not just you. We made it a family affair when we were on vacation in Florida, and a lot of your cousins did it. I did it.
And it wasn't
Your aunt
just
did it.
the second one. Some of my cousins did get like up here. So
Nice. Yeah, because I know that was something that you were really shooting for. Yeah.
I want to say I have to give all the credit to Mila
Absolutely.
because we are living life. I mean, this A1C of 5.9, and this girl's living.
Mm-hmm.
She is not depriving herself of anything. We eat cake, right?
yeah,
She does everything. She plays lacrosse. She plays basketball. This has not slowed her down. Is it a lot of extra work? Absolutely. Planning, just being diligent, staying on top of it. But with the right mindset, I feel like that's the key to, keep us on track.
And I think that the other really cool thing that I want all of the parents that are listening to this to know is one of the big things that I always hear from caregivers is I just want my kid to live their life. I just want them to be able to live their life and not have to worry. And not that Mila doesn't worry when she has a high blood sugar or a low blood sugar or sees a fluctuating blood sugar. But I feel like that, Cindy, you've put yourself in a position where now you guys trust each other. You make the ultimate decision on what's going to happen, and Mila rolls with it, which allows her to live her life, allows her to just to be a kid. But would you agree with that?
yeah.
Yeah. What is the biggest impactful thing that you as a family have put in place? Because I know your whole entire family works together, not just you and your mom, your dad. What is one thing that you guys have put in place that really helps you? Do you feel like it really helps you? Complex questions here, girl.
Never really thought about it before.
Okay. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing because you don't have to think about it. That was my other curiosity of that question, because I know how the family is. I mean, I talk to your mom every single day almost, and so let me turn it over to you, Cindy. What do you feel like is the most impactful thing that you believe is helping you, Mila, the family, allowing her to live a very normal childhood?
Trusting Mila to be her own advocate,
Love it.
to be confident in everything she does, especially taking care of herself, treating her diabetes when needed. And that, I feel like that's, for me, key. I, as a parent and as a caregiver, I am more than willing to take away the burdens that I can from her. Helping her change her pump, counting carbs, things like that. I have no problem doing that because we have given her the tools to know how to do that on her own. So when she's home, I'm happy to help. But I also know if I'm not home I was away this weekend. Scott and I were out of town, and my mom was staying with the kids, and it was a Dexcom change and a new transmitter. And I felt very confident that Mila can do that, no problem. So I think it's, knowing that she is capable. I'm willing to help anytime I can, but also, teaching her that this is the rest of her life. This is her management and how important it is.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how important it is to you. It has to be important to her too. And she has to believe that and own that.
Yeah.
And I think that right there is one of the very difficult things for young diabetics
Yes.
to grasp, especially when you haven't figured out how you make life work with the disease.
Absolutely. I think, too, we've talked about this a lot before, but the language that you use as a parent
Yes.
and a caregiver and the compassion that you show, the words you choose are just, very, very important. And I've told Mila, she knows this, but when her blood sugar's high, when her blood sugar's low, it's never a blame game. I'm not accusing Mila of, I'm not saying it's her fault. I've told her this, the only time I would ever be upset is if she wasn't trying. If you're trying, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
And what happens is, better than anyone, sometimes it's just a mystery. It's out of your control.
Yeah.
But if you try every day, that's all I want.
Yeah.
So
I think another really cool thing, and I've asked you this question when I've been over at the house, is if something happens that we don't understand, I can see your little brain trying to figure it out. And like going through the day and like, okay, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. By questions that mom asks, questions that I ask. Like I can see that. I think that is a beautiful thing because it's only setting the stage and building a foundation for when you go to high school, when you go to college, when you're out in the real world and working and all these things. And I think that right there is one of the most important things about being able to, one, be a kid, but also having your parents be able to take the reins, take the burden off of you, and figure out how this is going to work within your life. So then now you are this amazing train following what your parents are showing you how to do, where you don't have to figure out everything by yourself. I think that's such an amazing thing because you are just still a kid. You should still be able to live your life the way you want to live. Anybody should. But especially as a young kid, I can only imagine the emotions when you go over to a friend's house, when you go to, a basketball game, when you go play lacrosse, if you have a low during a practice or a game, like those have to be like crazy emotions. Crazy emotions. Are those times emotional for you though?
Like, sometimes they can be and sometimes they aren't.
Okay. When they are, what's going through your head?
Not really sure, because it's not that often. So,
Which is awesome.
I asked her the other day, do you feel different?
and
That's a really good question.
and I don't feel like I'm that different, but I know that I am, but I don't feel like I'm that different. And when people ask me about it, it's like it's not a big deal. And
Do you like talking about it?
sometimes it can get annoying.
Okay.
But
I'm sure. Absolutely.
sometimes, if it hasn't happened in a while, then I'll just I won't go really deep into detail.
Yeah.
But I will talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. the whole thought process, I understand it because I did it for years of trying to hide diabetes. Now where I'm at now as a man, a father, a coach, someone that lives with it, someone that's figured it out, it's hard to relate to that until I take a step back and reflect on when I was doing it to myself. And the place that I was in when I was doing it was so toxic that I'm so proud and like grateful that you're not putting yourself in that place, because it can be so toxic. I've seen it across the spectrum. Adults, people that are older, 50s, 60s, 70s, young kids, seen it across the whole spectrum. And the fact that you are in such a good place just makes me so happy. So happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the big smile. Look at that big smile, girl. I love that.
It's great. I mean, this is what makes it easy for me.
Oh, yeah.
Emotionally, as a parent, it's wow. I mean, you could go down a deep, dark hole.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do that because, I tell everyone has something. And it definitely gives you a new perspective of just having a slight difference in how people might treat you or look at you. Or we were at a movie theater and an older gentleman came up to me and said, "What is that on her arm?" And I can only imagine, because she probably gets that question all the time. And I love how Mila, her response to it will be, it depends on the person. So if she's invested in the person, she might explain it.
Yeah.
But if it's someone you don't know, you'll just say it's for my diabetes, or, not go into detail because you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right.
You get to choose what information you want to tell.
Yes.
And what information you don't want to tell, which is another really cool thing.
So I did say that, and it's like also like I said, with if I've said it a lot in the past week, 2 weeks or something, then I'll just do that. Or if it's someone I know, and if I have been asking that question a lot, then if it's someone that I know with it, then I'll won't go into deep depth, but I will explain it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. What do you like about diabetes? Is there anything that you like about diabetes? I always love. What's that?
Eating in class.
Eating. I love it. I love it. Eating in class. I've heard all of the diabetic stories of what we love. Getting out of tests. Those are. Don't tell your mom you do that. Yeah. What's something that you have figured out that really works in your day to day? If you don't do this, your blood sugars might fluctuate a little bit.
I'm not sure.
Is it we always talk about pre-bolusing. We always talk about insulin timing, food timing, the exercise piece. Mm-hmm. There's so many different things that we talk about that could turn your blood sugars to a not a great place. For me, I always think about if I'm not pre-bolusing the right way and I'm not listening to my body, which basically just means that if I am not focused in on, okay, I just took 40 grams for this meal that I'm about to eat. If I keep eating and don't pay attention, or if I don't listen to body cues, my blood sugars could skyrocket. Little things like that has really helped me keep my blood sugars in range and in line. Mm-hmm. If I'm not exercising regularly or moving in some fashion, I know that my blood sugars could potentially not be in range or potentially fluctuate.
Yeah, now I think it's pre-bolusing. If I don't pre-bolus, then I'll go super duper high.
Yeah. The interesting thing about pre-bolusing is I never really thought about this until I started Lemjev. The insulin that works within 5 to 7 minutes instead of Novolog, Humalog works 12 to 15 minutes, starts working. I always thought that the pre-bolus was the ultimate thing, which it is. But now I think about it in a different way because I don't have to pre-bolus as long because my insulin works way faster. And this is a really interesting piece because I think that pre-bolusing and understanding the timing and the timing and the type of insulin that you're on is everything when you're eating a specific meal, especially when you're eating more than 30 grams of carbohydrates, and if it's a higher glycemic food and it's going to spike you faster. The pre-bolus has to be there. If it's not, then you're going to fluctuate and you're going to rise. But I think that having this thought process of pre-bolus and making sure that you understand the type of insulin that you're using is so important. It seems like that's an easy thing to think about, but when you've been doing it the same way for so long, and then you change, and you don't think about how that change is going to affect you, long term within your day, then you're going to run into problems. And I think that the pre-bolus is such a powerful thing that can be manipulated so much. When we're first diagnosed, you say, oh, wait 15 minutes. And there's no other explanation whatsoever about that pre-bolus. When in reality, your pre-bolus is determined by what food you're eating. And that's it.
And we found, I think anyway, if we do a 20 to 30 minute pre-bolus for breakfast to try to start the day. I think if we can start the day with a nice pre-bolus before breakfast and stay in range, it sets you up for success.
Yeah.
Another thing that we talk about is if you're hungry and you're wanting to eat again, like, are you in range still? I don't like to be, on a habit, on a basis. I don't like to, dose for something when she's already really high. So say she's, 250 and she says, I'm hungry, I want something. My thought process is let's get back in range and then talk food.
Yep. And that's a very difficult thing.
Very difficult. I mean, with kids and growing, and she's growing so much and eating so much. And, as a parent too, you think about just the basic word no for your child is not what they want to hear.
Yeah.
For anything.
Yep.
But food is joy. I mean, I feel that way. I love to eat. I love food, everything about it. So when you're, kids asking you for something, and I'm not even talking about a sugary sweet treat. I'm just talking about food in general maybe, and saying, no, it's hard. You're limiting them. You're saying, no, you can't have that.
Yeah.
And no one wants to hear you can't have that.
But I think that, Cindy, the interesting thing with that, and it's bringing us back to what you said earlier about the communication, the trust, and the words that we're saying, having that really good conversation, and Mila knowing, okay, well, we're just going to wait until you get back down in range. Like, that is a way better, I believe is a way better thing for a kid to understand and feel confident and believe in than, no, not right now, you're just too high.
Right. And or offering a healthier alternative.
There you go. Yeah.
Low carb to no carb snack. But yeah. I think it's heartbreaking for a parent to constantly have to say, not a good idea, or not right now, things like that. But she does great with it, so I trust her, and yeah, we're not perfect. We try to eat and do our best, and we're learning every day. But it's a process. It's not an overnight switch your whole lifestyle kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's shocking, and that's the diagnosis itself is hard to swallow, and that takes a little bit of time. And I feel like we're gonna constantly evolve and get better. And as she, enters her teenage years and a young woman, I feel really confident that health and exercise and eating right is always going to be top of mind for her because it's habit.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to what we were talking about at the beginning about how incredible it is that you guys are building the foundations now. And we're not like still struggling after a year to figure out what's working. We're not still struggling with pre-bolus. We're not still struggling with how do we overcome lows. We're not still struggling on, how are we going to strategically plan on, breaking down a high, but then Mila's, hungry still. It's like you guys have those plans in place already. And that is why you're so successful, because you're not reacting to a specific situation. You're proactively reacting to the day. And I think that's a really important piece for all diabetics, not just for young diabetics.
Yeah, there's no more flying by the seat of your pants and grabbing food when you want. Everything is planned. Everything is calculated. And it just hopefully becomes a way of life that is not so bad.
Yeah.
In that aspect, I can't speak on the emotional part of it and how, what you have to deal with. But the other stuff to me seems like a healthy way to live. And as much as I feel like I was robbed, like my baby got taken away from me, and now I have this young adult over the last year. I mean, the maturity is tremendous.
Yep.
Because you're forced to grow up, overnight, literally. We came home and she was doing her own injections within a couple days.
I thought it was like a month.
No, well, I don't know. Maybe it was a couple weeks, but it was quick. She started wanting to do it herself, wanting to, take on that responsibility. And I could be really sad that I feel like she grew up in the blink of an eye, or I can be grateful for the relationship that I have with her now and that I always will. I feel like we're going to be closer than ever. I'm always going to have my eyes on her. And I'm thankful for that. I am.
Yeah.
If I had to, say, pick something good out of this whole diagnosis is it's just, it's made us closer as a family.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Mila, what when you think about your emotions and like the symptoms that you have, do you think you psychologically react to a low, or have you gotten to the place where a low is just okay, I'm going low, I just gotta deal with it, this is how I deal with it?
So when I go low, I so when I go low, I feel like shaky, and if I get low enough, I feel dizzy. But then sometimes I'll be like yesterday, I was 63 and I was outside at recess, and we changed the 504 plan because it was really annoying that every single time I was 70, the nurse would have to come up and we do a finger prick. So we changed that, and so I was 63 and I was outside at recess, and my mom was texting me do you feel okay? Are you fine? And we started now going off what I say, if I feel low or if I feel fine, and I said I felt fine, so I didn't do anything until I actually started feeling it when I was in my classroom.
What did you get down to when you started feeling it?
I think I was because I stayed at 63 for 20 minutes. So I think I was still at 63, and I just had one glucose tab, and that did me good.
What did it bring you up to?
I think it brought me up to 90.
Yeah. Which is another crazy thing because I take one glucose tab, it doesn't do crap for me.
Really? Yeah. That's something we learned right away because just the generic basic rule is like the 15 grams. So she was taking 4 glucose tabs initially. And then it was all Mila who said, I don't need 4. And it's so impressive to me that she knows I'll eat 1 or 2 or, whatever. And we're really lucky that that works for her, So it's crazy that I'm saying this about a 10-year-old, but I trust her gut. I'm always going to be looking, right? I'm always
of course.
texting her.
The nurturer in you, yeah.
Yeah. If I see that she's going below 70, I will shoot her a quick text and I just say, are you okay? And she knows that she has to acknowledge my text, even if it's a like or something, so that I know that she saw it. And that's how we've chose to deal with school, so that she can manage her diabetes on her own and not have to go to the clinic and see the nurse or, they're there for her safety. And the plan is if she goes below 60, that someone needs to go check on her.
Yeah.
And it's worked really well so far. We said we'll do it that way unless it doesn't work, and then we'll pivot. But it's worked.
Yeah, I think the other really cool thing I love right now, especially about the school districts and how they're trying to help and support a family of diabetes, is this 504 plan, and you having the ability to adjust it in whatever way you see fit as the family, along with the school and everybody involved. Everyone's collaborating about it. And I think that is awesome because it allows the family to be able to say, as you guys have now, we trust Mila. This is Mila's thing. And putting guidelines in place in that 504 where it's her making the decision, because a lot of other families don't have that in place. They can't put that in place.
Yeah, you really have to, you have to be an advocate for yourself and for your child. They don't offer these things. They want to follow very strict guidelines because rightfully so, they need to
be safe and
be safe.
Everything. Yeah.
And every child's different, so it's not a one size fits all. It's, what works for you. And we're finding that's what works for us right now. But yeah, in the beginning, after her initial diagnosis, there was a lot of clinic visits, a lot of finger pricks, a lot of, just a lot of check-ins. But that's because we were new and figuring it and trying to keep her safe until we felt pretty confident that she is aware of her lows and also paying attention to her Dexcom reading.
Was there a specific point? Was it the confidence that had you guys decide that she was going to take the reins during school? Or was there something else that was like kind of in place? Maybe you heard from another podcast or heard from a conversation with another family. Like, what was there a specific thing that happened that you're like, okay, yeah, we're going to change this 504 plan. This is why.
Mila, do you want to talk about that? It was the plan that we had in place initially didn't reflect where she is now. She evolved. And there was one particular day when she has what's called a pacer test at school. You want to tell them that?
So, pacer test, if you don't know what it is, it's like where you run back and forth and see how many laps you get. And you need to get a certain number for you to, actually I'm not sure that's
There's a certain time frame that you have to get the number in, yeah.
Yeah, but so I was doing that, and I remember throughout throughout the whole entire day. It'd be like 70 or like 72 or lower, and the nurse would come up, or like she'd come pick me up from my classroom, and I'd have to do a finger prick, and I'd most of the time be fine. But like it was the second grade play that day, and right before the play started, she pulled me out and gave me juice, and then I sat back down, and then that was like at the end of the day, and then she came back one more time to like do a finger prick. So I think I did like 6 finger pricks that day, and it got pretty annoying.
Yeah, 6 finger pricks with the Dexcom. Like, and that's the other really interesting thing about that whole situation. That I'm excited for the school districts to start working with the CGM companies and changing their policies, because, you know, the diabetes camps are doing it now, like other organizations are doing it now, where we don't have to no longer treat off of a finger stick. We can treat off of what the CGM data is telling us. And going along with the CGM data, you guys communicate very well every single day, all the time. You know, Cindy, you have her blood sugar on your phone 24/7. Has there been times where you didn't believe what the Dexcom was telling you?
Yes.
When she's at school and you
Yes.
guys are communicating this, and like,
Yes.
tell us about that.
It's crazy that Mila and I are usually on the same page. It was just maybe like a week or two ago. It might have been a new Dexcom day. I can't remember. But her blood sugar was really high, and reading really high in the Dexcom. And I texted her and I said, "I don't believe that number. Do you?" And she said, "No, I don't."
I think
All in tune.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think that was last Monday.
Okay.
And I remember Sunday, I thought that that night, I thought my pump was clogged because I was super high, and I did many corrections, and I just wouldn't go down. So I thought that my pump was clogged, and it would take like a very long time for me to come down. And the same thing happened the next day. So yeah, we both thought that.
Yeah, when we're on the same page, I'll ask her, "Hey, do you want me to run up to school and we can change your pump?" And she'll say, "Sure." You know, and so we've done that a handful of times. I mean, she could do it by herself, but again, only if I'm available. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, and that's when we don't believe the CGM, we do a finger prick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is best practice.
Yeah.
You know, but it was an interesting thought process I had as we were talking about CGM, because I've had the same issue over the past 2 months. It's like,
Yeah.
as soon as I'm changing that thing out,
Yeah.
like it's not 100% accurate. Sometimes it's off 50, 60 milligrams per deciliter.
Right. And that was my whole point to Mila was, if we don't believe it and we don't do a finger prick and, potentially calibrate, your CGM's communicating with your pump, and you're going to get
Extra
too
amount of
much. You're going to
insulin.
get too much insulin,
Yep.
So that's why it's important, to really be in tune with your body and listen. If you don't feel like that number's matching up, easy for me to say, do a finger prick,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
best practice maybe, but yeah.
Yeah. Mila, what are 1 to 3 things that you could tell the other kids listening, maybe the other moms or dads that are listening, that, what are 1 or 3 things that you could give some advice on, of what you've learned about diabetes, about your diabetes, about what really helps you stay under 6.0 as an A1C? What's 1 to 3 things that you could tell people?
That
Like, what are some things that help you throughout the day?
is if This is a hard question.
I would say, I'm just going to chime in real quick. It's such an emotional roller coaster, and the hard days are hard, and it's sometimes it seems impossible. But as cliche as it is to say, you know, it's a brand new day the next day, it really is. So, you know, it's, some days are just long and hard, and you know, nights can be long and hard. But so I've tried to really appreciate the good days, which we have. Almost all of our days are good. We don't have a lot of bad days, but you know, in the moment, the bad days can seem bad and daunting. So it's just that mentality that, like, okay, we're doing what we know we can do. You know, again, like you were looking at that checklist. You know, are we doing this, this, and this? And then, tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Anything else to add to that, Mila? Your days. Things that are going on in your day that, like, you are kind of like it's routine now.
Well, actually just thought of something. It doesn't have to do with like days like those. But I would say that not everything has to be low carb. Like
I love it.
Snacks.
High five to that one, girl. I love it.
Like snacks, like if you've already had a lot and they were on the higher carb side, then you should probably have low carb to no carb snack. But if you're just like, if you haven't like eaten a lot of carbs that day, then treat yourself to something with a lot of carbs.
Do you want to tell them what we did after? I mean, this is kind of crazy, and I'm not recommending it. But
these are the best stories, though.
We're going to be real honest, okay? So I'm going to let Mila tell you what we did after her last endo appointment. You know, we get the good news about the 5.9
the celebration
A1C,
day,
and you tell them what we did.
the celebration day. Let's hear this.
So what we do is, if I have a really good checkup, then we normally like get McDonald's or get UDF or something like that. But this time, since we don't live anywhere near like any of them, we went to Dairy Queen and
Get you some ice cream, girl.
And
how much did you have to dose for that?
I don't know. I think we did like 80, 90 carbs.
Yeah, she got a small.
Oh no! Wait.
Blizzard.
I'm thinking of the wrong thing. I think we did 110.
I think we did 110 because she got a cheeseburger and a small Blizzard. But I have to say, it was so wild. We pre-bolused. I don't think her blood sugar ever went over 130. So, you know, it was just, but it's, I felt like we needed to celebrate it. And then, you know, it's probably, you know, don't follow what we're doing. But, yeah, it just felt right and it felt good. I think that also what really helped is she had the Dairy Queen and then you went on a 3-mile walk with your friend, Emma.
Who was that day?
Yeah.
That's why we stayed under 130, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. I
So
mean,
that's-
but that's
yeah.
good practice, right? After you
Great
eat
practice.
something like that, like go for a walk, go run around, go jump around, whatever it is. And I think the other thing I wanted to bring to light was, you know, because Cindy, you're saying like don't do that what we just did, and I think the better reframe of that statement is it doesn't matter, because there's two things that I think about here. The one thing is you guys don't do that all the time. If you did it all the time, then I would say, yeah, we shouldn't be doing that. But you don't do it all the time. And then the other thing is we are celebrating something so incredible and so amazing that I do not care what this individual in that situation, the individual in that situation is doing, right? If for me, if I got a A1C back when it was 5.5, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go eat, just dive into some pizza because it's what I love to eat. You know, even though I still eat pizza once or twice a month, sometimes more than that, like I'm going to go treat myself. I'm going to go celebrate that. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because it's the thought process that we don't always do that. We live a healthy life by eating good quality food, and that's why Mila's A1C is under 6.0 and has been for a very long time. That's why she can eat a cheeseburger, some ice cream, and go for a walk and not go over 130 because her body's working efficiently the way it needs to work. She's very insulin sensitive instead of being insulin resistant. So these are very important things to think about, because so many times I get in front of parents, so many times I get in front of people that they think that they can't do these things, and that's not the case. There needs to be a plan, a strategic plan behind what we're doing. If there is, who am I to argue what you're doing?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Cindy, from your perspective, what are one of the 3 things that you could tell a parent that could help them? Maybe their kid was just diagnosed. Maybe they're a year in, 2 years in, and they still haven't figured it out. What are a couple of things that you have seen that works for her, works for the family, through the whole evolution of her being diagnosed? What are some things that you could share with the people that are listening?
Lean into your diabetic community.
Oh, God, I love it.
Find your diabetic community.
I love that.
I've never felt, I can't even explain it, but just being around other diabetics just makes me feel good. It makes me feel understood. And I mean, I'm speaking from, the caretaker's perspective, not Mila's, but yeah, and that, it's, everyone's going to handle it different. There's no perfect formula for diabetes. It's constant learning, constant communication, and show compassion. You have to show compassion because it's a lot.
Yeah. I love that.
And it's important for your diabetic to feel safe and heard. It's I would have to imagine one of the worst feelings is to feel alone and scared.
Yeah.
Because initially it's life changing and you don't know what to expect. So yeah, I would just say use your resources wisely.
And know that they're out there.
They are out there. You got to look. You got to do some looking for the good stuff, right? The real connections have helped me tremendously.
The connections through social media or the connections through personal interactions?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Because, one kind of leads to the other sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say both. And look for, the good stuff. There's a lot out there, and not all of it's good. But any personal connections, I think have, and for Mila too, going to the camp, making connections with other friends her age who are going through the same thing. It's cute when her, friends over and they're talking about, our pods and our CGMs are in the same place today, and they're dosing together. It's cute. And that would be my advice, I guess, is just, really just every day, if you just do a little reading, learn one thing, ask questions.
Yeah. How much experimentation do you feel like you guys had to go through?
I wouldn't say like a lot, but I would say like quite a bit. We still do experimenting, but now it's a lot less because now like we got everything like smoothed out, and we know how to like do this, and every now and then we'll find something new, like the pogo finger stick. That was an experiment and it worked out, but we don't use that anymore because something happened to it. And but that worked for a long time. And we're still doing some experiments now, but it's a lot less.
Yeah. It's a lot less intense because you've already got things figured out, which I think is the really important piece of that, because we're always going to be experimenting. For the rest of our lives, we're going to be experimenting.
Yeah, it's like every day's new, and when blood sugars are in range, it feels like a win of a day. But yeah, it's always just try your best, I guess. Like I said this before in the last podcast too, but one of the diabetes nurse educators at Nationwide said when we were in the hospital, and it just stuck with me this whole time, is diabetes is not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. So, and it's true. You can think you're doing everything, and it doesn't work sometimes.
Yeah.
But just keep moving ahead, like life, and don't give up, and
Yeah.
and we're gonna always try to give back, connect, and help in any way we can. Whether it be parents or kids, or I feel like it's changed our lives and given us a great purpose.
I love that.
Yeah.
The purpose thing is really, it really hits me hard, because I feel like the purpose of being a diabetic has given me purpose in what I am doing now in life.
Yep.
Where when I first started, I didn't think I had a purpose even in myself before diabetes, let alone now you have this condition and you're trying to figure it out. And unlike you guys, I was all alone. You talked about you can't imagine the alone feelings. Like I dealt with that for 3 straight years, even though I had supportive people around me. I had just met my wife pretty much 2 years into my diagnosis. And I mean, she brought me out of denial, but the whole process of that first 3 years was, I feel like it's a blur, because I tuned it all out and I just lived my normal days, my normal life. I was that person that tried to eat something, take some insulin, because I knew I could have something I wanted later to bring myself back up. And I didn't understand the ramifications of everything. So it's that individual that is struggling right now, I can 100% relate to, because at the beginning it was so hard. There was no one telling me, well, this is wrong, or you have to think about it this way, or let's reframe how you are thinking about this. Let's reframe about how you are thinking about diabetes in general. How are you thinking about diabetes? And that there was no one talking to me or having real conversations about it. I mean, this is where I'm at now, is 17 plus years in the making. And it's awesome now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anything else.
I would say you definitely can't rely on your quarterly endo appointments either.
No.
You have to be out there looking and talking and doing the research on your own. And then, going to your doctor's appointment with a list of questions.
Yeah.
And try to make the most of the appointment.
Yeah. Because it really is. I love that you bring that up, because it really is most of the situations that you're in, especially having an A1C of 6.0, they're going to look at that like, okay, there's nothing else we need to talk about. See it, peace out. It's been 5 minutes. When you might have this laundry list of questions of like, okay, well, we ran into this situation. How do we deal with this? And they probably don't even have the answer. Right. And going back to what we were saying about social media, it's so powerful. Like having people that can educate you and teach you is so powerful. Having other people in the community, having coaches, listening to podcasts, whatever it is, whatever your outlet is to be educated and figure stuff out, it's so much more important. That is so much more powerful and more important than waiting 3 months. I get so frustrated when I hear an individual say, like, "Oh, I'm struggling with this, but I have my an endo appointment in 2 months. I'm like, wait, what? This is what you're struggling with, and you're not looking for guidance on how to fix this. We need to change that. We need to change that thought process of that you are allowed to do that. I think a lot of people, when they first start, is like, okay, well, then my doctor's the only one that's going to know how to fix this. My doctor's the only one that's going to know how to deal with this situation. And the reality of the situation is that that doctor most likely has no idea how to deal with it.
I mean, I was going to say, how many endos have type 1 themselves and can speak to it? That's why I find so much value talking to other type 1s and listening to different scenarios and, how they've approached things. I think it helps.
Yeah. The more we listen, the more conversations we have, the more we learn, the better off the more power we're going to have and the more data we're going to have to figure out what works for us, hands down. And that is our only job as diabetics. That is our only job. That's been your only job with her. That's her only job, is how can I take what mom's learned? How can I take the things that we know what works and formulate it into this incredible plan, which is what you guys have done. So I just applaud you both. Applaud the family. And it's been incredible. It's been an honor to be part of that part of your guys' family. So it's been awesome.
We appreciate you. Yeah. It's been good. It has. I really, overall, if I, Mila makes it easy, and we just are going to keep working.
Yeah. Just keep moving forward and keep working and keep rolling. So thank you so much for both of you for coming in and doing this. Mila, high five again. Thank you so much. You're rock star. Everyone that's listening, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure I will leave Cindy's information, her Instagram handle, in the show notes, so you can reach out to her with questions. If you're a parent of someone with type 1, I'm telling you, she's figured out what works for Mila. And she's got a lot of really good insight. She's got a lot of really good connections, I would say, now in the community. So please reach out to her and ask questions, because I know we all have questions.
Yes.
So thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks so much, everybody, for listening, and I will see you next week.